Go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, here once again with Wrestling Inc.'s own Raj Giri. Raj, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Big news tonight as we're coming off the first live SmackDown on the USA Network. As we go to air right now and record this podcast, Hour 3 of the draft is going on the WWE Network as we speak. And we'll be checking in from time to time to give you updates with these announcements as they happen. But at the same time, we're going to recap what happened on tonight's first live episode of SmackDown on Tuesday, tell you about all the draft picks, tell you about the matches, give you our reaction. As we're going right now, they're doing a round. Golden Truth is going to Raw. That is the breaking news as we record this.
And the Usos to SmackDown.
And the Usos to SmackDown. So that's good news to start it off, fleshing out those tag divisions a bit more. And all in all, Raj, just sort of big picture thoughts. What did you think of the draft tonight?
I had posted an article earlier this week. I had received the advertising, for the upcoming live events after SummerSlam. So I kind of posted the rosters, and they pretty much panned out to the ones I had posted. So I wasn't really surprised. I thought Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. That's a great win for SmackDown. I thought Finn Balor, it's in the top 5 was a surprise, and so that shows that they've got some faith in him. So he's not going to be just another guy on the roster. Kane is to SmackDown, just announced, and I don't know if I missed a Raw one, but
yeah, maybe Titus O'Neil to Raw that just announced on my screen. I might be ahead of you. I might be behind you. The way this is working.
Yeah, and they're about to announce. It looks like Paige to Raw.
Cool. So I think for me, the big picture thought of this, and we'll dive deeply into the complete results of the draft in a moment. But my initial thought is that they're really splitting these brands up, continuing a lot of the storylines that are already underway. Yes, there are some changes as far as breaking up the club, but we're seeing a lot of people who've been working together coincidentally or maybe intentionally going to the same brands, which I think might, continue some of the through lines that we've seen in recent months.
I do think if you look at the top 5 picks of both shows, Finn Balor is exciting, but Brock Lesnar is never there. Charlotte, it depends on how hard they are going to push the women's division. The last, this pay-per-view and the last one, the women's champion has been in the tag match. So just looking at the top 5, I mean, SmackDown's got a much stronger top 5, but Raw has got a lot more depth, and that's expected with the 3 picks to SmackDown's 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually think it's pretty even as far as who came out on top. Lesnar's a huge name, but like we said, his dates are so limited that he only works a handful of TVs.
Should have just been a free agent, in my opinion. But before we get into the complete recap, I just want to give a quick shout out that this episode is brought to you by our friends at Host Papa. Host Papa's powerful web hosting solutions and cloud-based productivity tools are perfect for small business owners, digital entrepreneurs, and freelancers. Go to hostpapa.com/wrestling today and use our exclusive promo code wrestling to save 15% off their popular shared web hosting packages. That's hostpapa.com/wrestling. So let's jump right into the draft. Do you want to just go down the order in which stuff was picked and we can kind of react back and forth?
Absolutely.
Cool. So very first pick, Seth Rollins, number 1 on Raw, followed by number 2, Dean Ambrose to SmackDown. Raj, what'd you think? I personally thought no surprises, but
no, that's pretty much what I expected. Just given how the tours were working out, I figured it would either be. I didn't think it was going to be Reigns, given what happened. So Rollins was the logical choice, especially given that Raw had the first pick. I really think that they should have had it that SmackDown had the first pick, since Raw has it has more picks. But that's ultimately it would have been the same rosters anyway. So it's just nitpicking, I guess.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't watch, the order that it went in, they went Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, and then they just repeated that cycle throughout with some matches in between. Number 3, I thought was interesting and made a statement. Charlotte, the women's champion, number 3 draft pick, going to Raw.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they do those things a lot of times for show where they're showing that, we're really pushing the women. We've talked about it on the podcast before. I don't know how much more elevated the women's division is than it was a year ago. I feel like it's taken a little more seriously now that they dropped the term diva, but as far as the amount of screen time goes, it's not all that different. But at least they're trying.
Yeah, 2% increase, I believe. One Reddit user calculated, and it went from 7% of screen time to 9%. But yes, on paper, in commentary, they are giving it much more reverence and regard. And I'm personally a fan of the women's division. I like a lot of the female superstars that they have currently there. I'd like it to have a little more screen time and a little more interesting storylines, a little more diversity in storylines. But I think, it was definitely, somewhat symbolic by having Charlotte be the number 3 pick, followed by number 4, AJ Styles.
All right. And, that's fantastic for AJ, to go from, not even being on WWE's radar not that long ago to being the number 4 draft pick.
Number 2 for SmackDown.
Yeah, exactly. And ahead of guys like Cena. So that's a huge win. So congrats to AJ. I'm not so happy about them splitting the club up this early. I think there's a lot that they can do with them. But that's the way they chose to go.
Yeah. And number 5, which I thought was a huge surprise, long overdue, Finn Balor coming to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it was coming. I just didn't know he'd be drafted this high. Finn Balor, he just feels like he's been, in NXT forever. So, I hope that means we see him this Monday.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. And I think it'll be interesting. He will be on the same show as the other members of the club. So I think it'll be interesting without AJ to see if Finn falls back in with Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah, I would assume that they're going to have him as a babyface at least for a while. So I wouldn't see that pairing reuniting anytime soon. But, stranger things have happened. So who knows?
So then after that first round, we had a match. We had John Cena versus Luke Gallows. Pretty straightforward. Enzo and Cass were ringside. The rest of the club was ringside. I thought it was interesting. Enzo and Cass got to do their intro even when they were just coming out to be ringside in the match. But did you think there was anything really notable about that?
What I thought was the most notable thing was when they cut to the commercial and they were showing the match, in a split screen while they showed the commercial, which I thought. I think that's kind of, I could see that's, them going with sports with that a lot. So you keep watching the game. So therefore you don't turn away and you still watch the commercial. So that way the advertisers get more value. So I thought that was a neat little thing, and it keeps you hooked in as opposed to, going and getting a snack or something.
Yeah. Cena won the match. I thought, there's been a lot of back and forth in this. I'm curious to see how things pan out at Battleground with the 6-man tag. When we came back after that match, we had more draft picks. First up, fully selected Roman Reigns for Raw. I was kind of surprised by that. I wonder where he would have been if not for the suspension. I mean, did you expect to see him lower in the picks, higher, or?
I probably would have switched, as far as my predictions go, would probably have been Roman where Finn Balor was, or even Charlotte. So yeah, I could see, I would have expected him a little higher, but I think there's a message being sent a little bit because Reigns and Lesnar below Charlotte, Finn Balor and AJ Styles. I don't know if that would have happened, without the recent stuff that's happened.
Yeah. And to me, I was actually more surprised by John Cena at number 7 going to SmackDown.
And they made it a point to note that Cena's been kind of drifting away from the ring and doing other projects and that he's really busy. So they kind of justified his lower ranking.
And that really kind of pairs nicely with pick 8, which was Brock Lesnar for Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. I mean, again, Brock Lesnar's a tough one just because he's not on very often. So, I mean, he's a huge star, but at the same time, you're very limited with your dates. So, but a big get for Raw, and that's kind of that's where I expected him to be.
No, it definitely makes sense. And following that up was Randy Orton going to SmackDown.
Yeah, that's like I said, as far as established stars, SmackDown's pretty loaded with them, with Styles, Cena, and Orton.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that they're really putting their weight behind the show to give it a chance of succeeding. I mean, I feel like, when it all shakes out, there are more titles on Raw, but we have the Intercontinental Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, the main belt, on SmackDown as it stands, providing nothing changes at Battleground and provided we don't get two separate belts.
And if you look at the top 5 as far as touring goes, because Cena's not going to be working live events that often, then you got Ambrose, AJ Styles, Orton, Bray Wyatt, and Becky Lynch on SmackDown, and Rollins, Charlotte, Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, and the New Day on Raw. So again, as far as the live event rosters go, it seems pretty even.
Yeah. And number 10, going to Monday Night Raw, New Day.
Yeah, they're one of the most over groups. So yeah, I could see them. I think that's justified them being in the top 10.
No, I think it makes sense with how things kind of shook out after that. I mean, it seems like they're going with the flashier, showier, more sort of, I want to say almost, the more flamboyant of the tag teams going to Raw. And I think when we get down lower to it, American Alpha may signal something with the direction that SmackDown is going in with their tag teams.
And Darren Young is going to Raw. It looks like Kalisto is going to SmackDown. And so, yeah, that's where we are right now. Again, all these that are coming in right now, pretty inconsequential. But, that's... We'll keep naming them. But you know what? The thing with the New Day, I was surprised that Enzo and Cass got drafted to Raw as well, even though we had them listed on on the same tours. But it just seems like to balance it out with the tag teams, it feels like Enzo and Cass should have probably been on SmackDown.
See, I think with SmackDown, to me, it seems like they're going for a little more of the Smark show, going for something that's a little more, technical, especially with the tag teams with American Alpha and some of the wrestler picks. Like, I think they're going for more hardcore fans, whereas Raw might be the more mainstream show.
It could be. But again, if you're looking for that balance, okay, Sin Cara to Raw, Naomi to SmackDown. But yeah, I definitely see your point.
So wait, so was Kalisto going to SmackDown or Raw?
I believe that was Raw. So I think Kalisto, Sin Cara, and now Jack Swagger to Raw, Naomi to SmackDown. Yes, I don't think I saw that wrong. I'll double check on that.
So Lucha Dragons still broken up, as was announced yesterday, yet they're both being drafted to the same show as singles.
Yeah.
But again, as was pointed out last night, if they start wrestling each other, that I actually think could be the best thing that's happened to them as singles wrestlers, just to have them feuding each other, because their styles, I mean, together, I think they can put on a hell of a match.
Oh, we got a big one.
Oh, what's that?
The Ascension to SmackDown.
Yes. Well, so the Ascension and American Alpha are going to be on the same show, right? The Ascension is the only other tag team announced for SmackDown thus far.
Yeah, that tag team division is looking really weak. Oh, I think the Usos too on SmackDown, but
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, gosh, it's not looking pretty on SmackDown. They need to get a bunch of teams up quick.
Yeah, definitely something to sort of balance it out. Okay, so is that 5? Is this round done?
I don't know. I think they've got more coming.
Oh no, I know there's more.
Sorry. Where were we at?
Rusev and The Miz versus Darren Young and Zack Ryder.
You're gonna have to walk me through this one. We had a hailstorm out here in Denver, and
I know. So
DirecTV went out, and then when I went to the USA Network live stream of SmackDown, they showed the West Coast feed, not the East Coast feed.
So it was billed as the contenders versus the champions. Of course, we have Rusev and The Miz both holding their respective belts, Darren Young and Zack Ryder, who are challenging them for the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship this Sunday at Battleground. So we had a tag team, and it was nice. As I mentioned in last night's podcast, it feels to me like both these episodes last night and tonight were like the senior year drama show. Like, let's give everybody something to do and find a way to make it kind of fun and different. And there was some good interplay in this match. The main notable thing is that Darren Young got a clean win. He did the crossface chicken wing and went to Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund told him to do it. And I think this is his first non-accidental win, or non-interfered win, as the last one was. So they've given him at least, a legitimate victory.
Nice. So he's coming up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So after that, we came back from commercial and had Xavier Woods versus Bray Wyatt.
So my DirecTV didn't come back until Kane versus Owen. So you're gonna have to walk me through.
Okay. It was some good back and forth as far as the singles match. I mean, we had the Wyatt family and New Day ringside. Wyatt won with Sister Abigail. I thought it was a good match. The thing I like about this is I have a pretty strong feeling New Day is going to win at Battleground. So I think by showing Wyatt taking out Xavier shows that in a one-on-one match Xavier can't hang. But when New Day, when they come together, they're stronger than all that oppose them. That's the message I took from it, at least, that I think I was supposed to take from it. So after that, we came back to what was set up, Kane versus Kevin Owens. The Demon Kane versus Kevin Owens in the ring, which to me, Kane was in the ring. Owens did his entrance. To me, that felt like a house show in the best way possible. Sami Zayn interfered, so the match never happened. I don't know about you. Of these sort of hypothetical matches that never actually take place, this is the first one in a long while that is like, I actually really wanted to see that match. I'm really kind of bummed that got interrupted.
Oh man, I missed that. I only saw Kane. So when it came back, Kane was had the fire on in the ring. Did they ever even make contact or anything?
No. Zayn came up behind Owen, started punching at him. They did their thing, and yeah, I mean, it's like, I know a lot of the time these are kind of silly matches where it's like, what's Damian Sandow doing on TV? And then it's like, oh, it's a run-in. That's why Damian Sandow was the opponent. But with this one, this like legitimately I thought would be interesting to watch. Yeah. So that was kind of a bummer. So yeah, that happened. And let's see what happened after that. Oh, so fittingly right after that, Stephanie announced that Sami Zayn was drafted for Raw, making him the number 11 pick ahead of Kevin Owens. And I thought that was just awesome that Zayn is going to Raw, that he was so high. What was the prediction last night? We were predicting he wouldn't be in the top 10. Well, he was number 11. Followed by that with Bray Wyatt going to SmackDown. And I believe it was noted that it's Bray Wyatt solo going to SmackDown. He was not drafted as a part of the Wyatts.
Yeah, I don't think Braun Strowman or Eric Rowan have still been drafted yet. I'm looking at and a quick correction from earlier. Kalisto is to SmackDown, Sin Cara to Raw, so they are split up anyway.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Bray Wyatt to SmackDown. He's scheduled to be feuding with Dean Ambrose after SummerSlam. So there you go. They're going to be back to feuding again.
Yeah, and if Ambrose is still the champ, that means Bray's getting kind of a push, right? I mean,
he'll probably. I mean, if they do in fact go with the split titles, and that was their direction at one point, then you would assume that Dean Ambrose would be the champion of SmackDown. I don't know who else would be at this point. So I think Ambrose on SmackDown, Rollins on Raw makes the most sense.
Yeah. So after Bray Wyatt to SmackDown, Foley selected Sasha Banks for Monday Night Raw, which again, no surprise there, as many people have speculated, building towards Sasha versus Charlotte for the title at SummerSlam. So everything's in place. And then it was weird. I thought, I'm assuming it was scripted, but Daniel Bryan poking fun, talking about Foley's obsession with the women of the WWE. But I liked that after that, they announced Becky Lynch for SmackDown. So, I mean, this confirms it, the two separate women's divisions. And Becky Lynch is I'm reading into this, she's going to be the face of SmackDown's women.
At least for now, unless it doesn't look like Bailey's getting drafted unless it's like a surprise towards the end. Um, they might just introduce Bailey, this Sunday and then have her on SmackDown. But the thing that doesn't make any sense is if Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are now the commissioner and general manager of SmackDown, why would they book Sasha Banks in a handicap match? Isn't that like a heel thing to do? Like that's something like the Authority would do. So I just thought from a storyline continuity standpoint, it just made no sense to have that.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Wrapping up that round, Foley picked Chris Jericho for Raw, which is interesting, when you look at how this all shakes out, because now we've got, again, as I mentioned at the top of this, a lot of the same groups that were involved in storylines before are kind of moving, being split up, so I think we're going to see maybe not as much newness and freshness in terms of the storylines as perhaps I had hoped. Of course, during this whole time, there was a second screen experience going on. Did you watch any of that?
I did. I was watching that while the DirecTV was out. I saw Cena's promo where he was Booker T actually said something to the effect of what does it feel like to be demoted or something like that. And, going to SmackDown. And then he tried to take it back and say, well, being a late draft pick and take it back. But, Cena, was great on his feet as always, talking about he's number one with everything and he's still the guy to chase and SmackDown's gonna be number one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, but I think you're right in terms of Cena's career and where it's going, that it makes sense that he is going to be a little lower, on the card.
Let me ask you this. Did you feel like with Cena being so low that it kind of took away some of the drama with him being drafted to SmackDown? Like I feel like it should have almost been a bigger deal. Like, that SmackDown got the biggest star in the company, and it just kind of was, washed under the rug.
I know this maybe isn't the most popular opinion, but thinking again, the idea of Cena being like, he's transcendent, right? We all know who AJ Styles is. A wrestling fan knows who AJ Styles is, but people around the world who don't follow wrestling know who John Cena is. I would have flipped Cena and Styles personally, or I would have put Cena in that position.
Yeah. I agree. I think it just should have been made a bigger deal and made it just give that look that SmackDown is, really on the level and that this is something serious.
Yeah. That signals, their commitment to it. Right. So after that round, we had the 2-on-1 handicap match, which I got to be honest, and this kind of speaks to it. I was more distracted by what was going on at the second stream. I found that more interesting, where I muted the volume on the match. And I'm not one of these haters that's like, oh, women's match, I'm going to the bathroom, or I'm muting the TV. But I just felt like Dana and Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. How many times have we seen this in recent weeks? Had a feeling, this was just, I didn't really care who won, given that we've got the real match coming up on Sunday. So yeah, I actually muted this for part of it. I thought it was an okay match from the parts of it that I watched, but yeah, whatever was going on the second screen at the time was more interesting to me, and I don't even remember what that was.
Well, something interesting actually did happen in this match, though. This was Sasha Banks' first loss by pinfall or submission since she's been on the main roster.
Really?
She has never lost by pinfall or submission. She's been, in triple threats where she didn't win, but she's never been the one tapping out or being pinned. So
that's interesting.
So there was a little bit of history tonight in that sense.
No, see, and I picked a hell of a time to mute it. But that does note, I think, was it you or Ryan who speculated last night the idea that this is building up to where Sasha will win in a tag situation and maybe pin Dana on Sunday, setting it up for her to pin Charlotte and take the belt at SummerSlam?
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured, or even pin Charlotte to set up that match. I think Dana probably makes more sense, and then you do the match with Charlotte. But yeah, it's clear that they're going with Sasha and Charlotte at SummerSlam, so it doesn't make sense to have Sasha lose, this Sunday.
Yeah. So coming back from that, we had after Charlotte and Dana Brooke won, we went back, fully selected Rusev and Lana for Raw. which again, so that brought it up to 3 championships right there on Raw as it currently stands, with the US champion going there. Daniel Bryan said he hated to do it, but SmackDown is going to get the Intercontinental title. So the Miz and Maurice are going to SmackDown. And then interestingly, Stephanie picked Kevin Owens for Raw.
Mm-hmm.
So again, to what I was saying earlier, and I actually like this. I know somebody in the comments last night kind of gave me crap for wanting to see Zayn and Owens going at it, but Zayn, Owens, and Jericho are all going to be on Monday Night Raw. And, I don't know what I'll do if they don't keep them sort of feuding with each other, but that's where my money is. If I was a betting man, that's where I would place my bets on that storyline continuing.
And so we got Zack Ryder to SmackDown. So at least that means his feud with Rusev isn't going to be lasting much longer. And the Dudleys are going to Raw. Just announced.
Interesting.
And they're announcing Summer Rae. I believe this would be to Raw.
So wait, are there aside from Becky and Natalya, no other women have been drafted to SmackDown yet?
Becky and Natalya. I thought there were a couple others earlier. Let me double check this list here. But we'll come back to that. But I thought Naomi was as well. Yeah, Naomi was to SmackDown. And
Gotcha.
Apollo Crews now is also to SmackDown.
Interesting. So that means Apollo and Sheamus won't be feuding anymore. I know everyone was heavily invested in that feud.
And another one's coming up. It looks like Mark Henry to Raw.
Oh, so Mark Henry, though, isn't he still pseudo part-timer status? I know there's been a lot of speculation about his retirement.
Yeah, pretty much. So it doesn't mean much. So, and sorry, Natalya also was on SmackDown.
Yeah. So we got 3 women to SmackDown thus far.
Yeah.
So rounding out the round after that was Baron Corbin. And I made a note with this. Baron Corbin got picked ahead of Cesaro. Let that sink in.
Really quick, we got another NXT. Another NXT draft. Alexa Bliss going to SmackDown.
I'm a happy man. Alexa Bliss is an awesome heel. And I think having her there and having Becky there, like, I'm really excited about that. I was groaning to my wife. I was like, oh, good. We're going to have Becky and Natalya. I like Natalya, but I just don't buy her as a heel. Something about that just doesn't work for me. But Becky and Alexa, that's money.
Yeah. Did they say that Dana Brooke was with Charlotte, or is she separate? No. Right. So they haven't announced her yet.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what they do with her. So I think that settles at least the live round as we're following along. Mm-hmm. But the final round on TV after Baron Corbin was Enzo and Cass staying together and going to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, again, I just think they're such an entertaining group. Same as New Day, they kind of have that same kind of interaction with the crowd. So I would have liked to see one of them on SmackDown, but yeah.
I don't know. The thought to me, I mean, I know I don't think I've divulged this to you, Raj, but if you go back through my Twitter feed, you might find a photo of me with Enzo Amore. I'm a pretty big super fan of Enzo and Cass, and the thought of splitting them up, just I can't even comprehend it.
Oh, absolutely. I think they should have stayed together, but I would have liked to have seen them on SmackDown or New Day on SmackDown. I just think just the dynamic is too similar dynamics on Raw, but I'll get over it.
It's similar, but when you put them together, I think it's awesome. I think, New Day and Enzo and Cass in the ring together on the same, having them on the same show, hopefully having them feud. To me, like, I've been waiting for that for a long time, and we got a little taste of it before Enzo got his concussion, but I think it'll be really, really good to see what develops there. Let's take a moment before we hop back into stuff and thank one of the sponsors of this episode of the Wrestling Inc. podcast, and that's Host Papa. Raj, as a business owner, web hosting, all the challenges, all the pain. I mean, whether it's managing your website, picking the right plan, dealing with support, dealing with downtime. I mean, you've been there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the most important things that's almost out of your hands is hosting, because with programming or your team, you have control over that. When you go with a hosting company, you're giving that control, and so you need someone that's reliable, someone that's trustworthy, someone whose support team is there And trust me, I've been there. People might remember, like, a few years ago, Wrestling Inc. was down for half a day, and that was the last straw for me, and I took off from that company. So it's very important, and it's a very underrated cog in a website's wheel. And
definitely. Definitely. And whether you're running a business, whether you have a fan site, anything you do that involves having a presence on the web, Host Papa is the solution. Host Papa's complete turnkey solutions make it easy for small business owners, digital entrepreneurs, and freelancers, really anyone, to get a website up and running. They literally have everything you need, including lightning fast servers, professional email, automated backups, cutting edge security, and hundreds of cloud-based productivity tools ready for you. And there's no limit to how awesome your site can be. They've got a super easy to use drag and drop website builder. They've got a one-click WordPress installer. You can have an awesome website up and running in no time at all. They're the best web host for small business with affordable pricing and award-winning support available via chat, phone, or email, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And if you need extra help, they'll give you a free dedicated 30-minute one-on-one training session with one of their experts. No other web host does that, and I'm so impressed that Host Papa has that feature. They've got your back. They want to get you up and running quickly so you can focus on more important things like running your business. Shared hosting accounts start as low as $3.95 per month, and they'll even throw in a domain name for free. And hey, there's no risk because Host Papa offers an unconditional 30-day money-back guarantee. If you've already got a site hosted elsewhere, they'll even help you migrate it over for free. Here's what we want you to do. Visit hostpapa.com/wrestling. Check out what our friends at Host Papa have to offer. And because they're fans of this podcast, they're offering our listeners an exclusive 15% off new shared hosting accounts. Just enter our code WRESTLING at checkout to save 15%. That's hostpapa.com/wrestling and use the code WRESTLING to get 15% off powerful, reliable, and secure web hosting for small business owners or anyone who needs an awesome website. Host Papa, great company. Love these guys. Please support them. And remember, when you support the Wrestling Inc. sponsors, you're supporting our podcast. Host Papa. So back to Tuesday Live SmackDown. We had Chris Jericho versus Cesaro. And my favorite detail of Jericho's entrance wearing his red Raw shirt was that he had the little red scarf.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's attention to detail like that. That's what I appreciate in a wrestling promotion. But I thought
I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I thought the match was good. I thought it was enjoyable.
Gotcha. So just announced Braun Strowman to Raw. So that was so they are splitting up the Wyatts then.
Wow. I know we're going to have another announcement in a second, but you know what I really want to see is a series of vignettes of showing former members of the Wyatt family, like alone, like living on their own for the first time in the big city, adjusting to not being at the compound, like being deprogrammed. I think that would be gold.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Because, I mean, supposedly, kayfabe, how do you explain it? Like, they left behind Bray and they're going out on their own.
Right, yeah. You know? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Breezango to SmackDown. Also.
So we got American Alpha and Breezango on the same. Okay, this will be interesting. So we're going to have, obviously, I was hoping earlier, thinking having American Alpha were signifying a more serious tag division that's more based on technical wrestling. And then Breezango comes out of nowhere to shatter that dream. But, you know, I like Breezango. I like them together. I like them separate. I wish we could call them Febreze, but apparently, you know, trademarks and all.
And apparently the social outcasts don't count as three for one, like the New Day. So Bo Dallas was just drafted to Raw.
Oh, wow. So do you think they're being broken up?
Well, we'll have to see what the next. I have a feeling they'll be coming up pretty quick here.
Yeah, there's going to be like 5 social outcast fans out there that are just going to be heartbroken about this.
I definitely. Oh, no. So IWC is going to love this. The next NXT draft pick, take a guess.
Mojo?
Eva Marie on SmackDown.
Oh, Eva Marie, I mean, they're counting that as an NXT call-up?
Yeah.
See, because she's technically been on the main roster.
Yeah, but I'm assuming she is. I mean, that's where she's been. Yeah. And the clips they were showing, I have it on mute, but the clips they were showing, she was on... that were all NXT clips. And then we got the Shining Stars. The Shining Stars going to Raw. We are at the bottom here. So
So who did the Shining Stars get drafted ahead of as far as the tag division? Are they the last tag team drafted?
No, I mean we still got 20 minutes to go. So
Yeah, but of the tag teams though, of the tag teams.
Let's see, the tag teams Ascension's ahead of them. Oh wait, we're talking about
the Vaudevillains. The Vaudevillains. Oh my God, the Shining Stars got drafted ahead of the Vaudevillains.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think the Vaudevillains might have a little heat because of Aiden English was in a backstage fight with Sin Cara tonight.
Was it Aiden English or was it Simon Gotch?
I'm sorry, Simon Gotch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that fight was about. I would love to know, like, just what prompted that. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I've sent us a couple texts, so I hope to hear something back soon.
It's just so random. I mean, it's just random. It's just, oh, there we go. So now the Vaudevillains the Shining Stars drafted right before the Vaudevillains. Yeah. Oh man, what a world we're living in. Yeah. Crazy, man. So going through, I think that takes care of it for this round of what they just announced there. Chris Jericho won the match against Cesaro, by the way. After that, we got well, actually, this was really weird. Okay, so I don't know if you were watching this live, but they went to commercial. Did they announce Natalya versus Alicia Fox? Because I think I turned on the second stream, and all I know is we came back from commercial, and Becky Lynch was beating up Natalya.
I don't remember them announcing that. Maybe they did, but yeah, I don't. I think I was probably posting something at that point.
Yeah, it just seemed very abrupt. I mean, to come back to a mid-match run-in already in progress when it was a run-in on a hypothetical match that I don't even remember being announced. So that was what it was. And of course, that's building towards the Becky versus Natalya match this Sunday coming up at Battleground. But after that, we had a series of more draft picks on the main show on SmackDown tonight. Stephanie drafted Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson to Raw, officially confirming that the club is broken up, at least as far as this goes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you're right. I think they will do Finn as a face, so I think we'll just have Gallows and Anderson back to doing their version of the club minus AJ. And then Daniel Bryan drafted to NXT's American Alpha, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan to SmackDown, which I thought was awesome. I mean, I love those guys. Just watching their rise, through SmackDown last year, coming together or through NXT last year, coming together as a team, seeing them go on to win the belts. And just now with this, I mean, it's just fantastic. I don't know if you watched on the second stream shortly after SmackDown ended, but on the network, they were interviewing them. Jason Jordan looked the happiest I have ever seen a superstar look. I mean, the guy was smiling. He was like flush, almost like blushing with how happy he was. I wonder, when do you think they told the NXT call-ups that this was happening?
I'm guessing it was probably pretty soon. I'll have to find out for sure. I don't know, but usually the top guys knew for a while. Like I said, the schedules have been out. So, and we listed about 12 people where they would end up on earlier this week, and that's pretty much where they ended. So, the top guys knew. I'm guessing a lot of those guys probably didn't find out till tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it was something to see. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, that's where I really mark out, is when I can just see a wrestler's genuine happiness and enjoyment. I mean, seeing them with tears in their eyes at TakeOver when they won the belts. I mean, that's what gets me. That's where I just suspend all disbelief and I believe it. And so just seeing his happiness tonight, I mean, it was just, as a huge fan of American Alpha, I thought that was awesome. Yeah. So after that, it was announced that Big Show is headed to Raw. Again, Big Show sort of, not getting as much TV time. Is he still doing a lot of house shows, even though he's not on TV as much? Yeah,
he's been teaming with Kane at a lot of house shows. So he's still, he's limited on TV, but he's still working, pretty full schedule.
Yeah, and then Shane announced Dolph Ziggler for SmackDown. So, anyone who really wants to see that Baron Corbin Dolph Ziggler feud continue, odds are looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, Ziggler, drafted ahead of Cesaro.
Yeah. And what's interesting that Stephanie followed that up by announcing that Nia Jax was coming to Monday Night Raw. We talked about that last night as a prediction. I mean, any thoughts?
Yeah, back in the day, the one thing you could do is draft him to SmackDown, because then you had the benefit of it being taped, so you could, edit out any botched spots or things like that. Now it's not taped, so really they are the same. You don't really have the benefit of having one show being more for the younger talent to learn a little more. So yeah, if you're going to bring her up, I guess it makes sense to bring her to Raw, where you have good workers with like Sasha and Charlotte that could help, lead her, take her through the steps.
So I made note of this. Nia Jax, who debuted on NXT after Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky were called up to the main roster, got called up before Bayley.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll be seeing Bayley pretty soon, in probably in the next week.
Prediction, do you think she's going to end up going to SmackDown or Raw?
I think SmackDown. I think they need her.
Yeah, I think that definitely balance things out a bit more. So yeah, it's were you surprised by anything tonight, or is this all pretty much how you figured it was going to go?
I think I was more surprised by the placement. I was surprised that Cena was so low, Finn Balor was so high. But that was about it. The names and where they ended up really didn't surprise me all that much.
I mean, in terms of ordering, I was surprised, in the last round they announced on TV, Raw got Neville, SmackDown got Natalya, Raw got Cesaro. And that's really surprised me that Cesaro was so low.
Yeah.
On it. I mean, even after Neville, who I know, I mean, a lot of us NXT fans and a fair amount of fans of the main product like Neville, but I was just even surprised that he warranted that ahead of Cesaro, a guy who's been all over TV the last 3 months.
Yeah, I remember I got a lot of crap on this podcast from fans who, when WrestleMania, when Cesaro was out and when he was coming back, and I'm like, man, when we were talking about the lack of top stars, and they're like, well, Cesaro's coming back. And I'm like, well, he can be a top star, but WWE, they're not going to push him like one, and he's going to end up back where he was. Now I feel like he's even lower than he was. And it's just such a shame.
Yeah, at least he's getting time on TV every week. And I think when he has a chance to shine, I mean, he does amazing stuff in the ring. So I think, I think he's building a fan base. I just don't think creative recognizes it or is, giving him the push that his fans want. So rounding it out on the TV picks, SmackDown picked Alberto Del Rio and Raw selected Sheamus. So we got a nice Irish contingent with Sheamus and Finn Balor both on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, surprised they kind of went down on such a whimper, with Sheamus being the last, announcement on TV. And there's nothing against Sheamus, but
Sheamus was the world heavyweight champion less than 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
He was. But at least you could have switched him and Cesaro, because at least Cesaro would have gotten a bit of a pop. But when Sheamus, it was just groans. And I don't blame Sheamus. I blame how he's been booked. But they went out on a whimper with that one.
Yeah. So before we get to the main event, just want to take a moment to remind people hey, don't forget to try out DDP Yoga. If you looked tonight and saw how great Mick Foley is looking, saw how great Chris Jericho is looking, DDP Yoga. You got to check it out, especially their awesome Max Pack used by Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Mick Foley, John Cena, Goldust, and tons of other WWE stars who love DDP Yoga. You can get a special offer with 3 months of the app for free at ddpyoga.com/Wrestling Inc. Also, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, now available on iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, Amazon, and Vudu. So make sure to check that out. Tweet at DDP Yoga. Let them know we sent you. You can also see the film on DVD, Blu-ray, and Netflix. Watched it, loved it. I don't think I've heard anything about anyone watching that movie and not finding it remarkable, moving, compelling, and inspiring. It's a fantastic film. Highly recommend that. Big thanks to DDP Yoga for sponsoring the Wrestling Inc. podcast.
Absolutely. And as always, be sure to check out Trendy Butler. They're a fantastic clothing service. I was wearing them last night. Basically, you select a style profile and Trendy Butler does the rest. They handpick clothes that cater to you and your style, preferences, sizes, and your overall personality. And even better, for only $65, you get over $150 in designer clothes. So make sure to use the code Wrestling10 at trendybutler.com when you sign up, and you get $10 off. Again, that's trendybutler.com, and make sure to visit them on Twitter and Instagram. Just a quick update, too, on the draft. Alicia Fox and Dana Brooke to Raw. Eric Rowan to SmackDown. So Braun Strowman is by himself on Raw.
You know, it's interesting. Braun Strowman of the Wyatts now, he's gotten in much better shape recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, he showed some pictures where he did, but in the ring, I can't really, I can't really tell. It doesn't,
Well,
he doesn't look much different than he did. Oh, I think we got our last NXT draft. Guess who it is?
Mojo?
Yes,
It's
it
like
is
it's like Christmas and my birthday all in one.
Mojo Rawley to SmackDown.
I have to say, I don't know if you had this experience. I'm sure a lot of our listeners did. That WWE Breaking Ground series made me like and appreciate a lot of the NXT wrestlers that I would not have given a second thought before. Mojo Rawley, definitely one of them. And also, I have to admit, on Twitter, he's awesome. He interacts with just about everyone. You could tell that guy loves this business, loves what he does. And in my opinion, that level of his energy is contagious, and that enthusiasm, that's what I really appreciate in a superstar. So I'm actually really glad to see Mojo on SmackDown. That's where Ryder's going too, correct?
Yeah, and it looks like we got another NXT one. Did they say Ryder?
Yeah, because Ryder
is SmackDown. Yeah. Oh, Carmella. So Carmella is being moved up to the main roster as well. So a lot of women from NXT tonight.
Is Carmella going to Raw or SmackDown?
Sorry, SmackDown.
Oh, Carmella to SmackDown. Interesting. So we will not have her with Enzo and Cass, but the Hype Bros. Fingers crossed.
The Hype Bros. And I like Mojo Rawley. He's always a really cool guy. I've met him several times, and even in person, he's a cool dude. So I like him. I just don't his personality. I just don't know. I'd like to see that being used as a heel, almost like just being an over the top, who's the guy, the Patriots guy, the New England Patriots, Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah.
How like everyone that's not in New England hates him. Like that kind of a gimmick where he does it, but he's a heel. No,
I think it'd be interesting. I'll be curious to see how they use him. I mean, he's one, and I'm sure, most NXT fans think this about every call up is that, oh my God, they're going to get buried. They're going to get ruined. Creative's not going to know what to do with them. They're going to be relegated to a Sandow position, sitting in the back playing video games week after week. I hope that does not happen for Mojo. But yeah, I think they're going to have to do something with him if he's going to have a singles run beyond the Hype Bros. But who knows? It seems like based on the number of tag teams and the way that's shaking out, the Hype Bros might genuinely be needed as an additional tag team on SmackDown.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best thing for him.
Yeah. So for that, we go into the main event that happened. I mean, so that's the last of the 30 call-ups that were in the after show. So the rosters are pretty much set. Everyone can check out the complete rosters for both SmackDown and Raw on Wrestling Inc. Do you want to give them a quick rundown, Raj?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it was interesting. Just that Dean Ambrose pinning Seth Rollins clean in the main event. Days away from their match where, Ambrose is the champion already. Usually that means that Ambrose is losing, but, I still think they're headed to splitting the titles and doing some sort of angle at Battleground.
And I think that would make sense. I mean, I enjoyed the match. There was good back and forth, but I think, not to beat a dead horse. And I know that people might say like, oh, it's a little cynical or it's a little hating on what creative does. I mean, the thing is, I love wrestling and I love watching wrestling. And when the magic of it gets me, I'm like the biggest mark for the superstars that really sell, that tell creative and interesting storylines. My worry is that when you see these same matches in this 50-50 booking or this back and forth in the lead up to a pay-per-view where we're supposed to really care about the main event, it just diminishes the specialness of it. So it'll be actually kind of refreshing to have Roman back in the mix on Sunday, because I feel like with Dean and Seth, there's been so much back and forth that it's hard to get excited about seeing that for the upteenth time.
Right. I agree. I'm never a fan where they have, even when it's a triple threat match and you have doing the different variations of those three guys wrestling each other. I'm just never a fan of that. I'm always the old school, like holding it off until the pay-per-view, because that makes it feel more special.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, and think back, I know now with the network we're all spoiled, but when you think back to the day when you had to drop $50 to watch the pay-per-view, you wanted to see something special on the pay-per-view. So, yeah, I mean, if there's one thing, I think sort of my closing note to the draft is that I'm optimistic we're going to see less repetition in booking, less of the same faces week after week on TV. Part of the huge success of NXT, in my opinion, is that you can go 3 or 4 episodes without seeing a superstar that you love, and it keeps you coming back for more. I hope Raw and SmackDown take a little bit of that going forward.
Even with Raw getting so many more picks, I think SmackDown's off to a big advantage. Having Daniel Bryan, having the 2 hours, I think the 2 hours is key. It just doesn't it just doesn't tire you out. Like tonight's show, just the crowd was hot. It felt like a WrestleMania crowd, at times. I mean, they were hot. And if they can, I don't think it's going to be like this every week, obviously. But with Daniel Bryan there, he gets the crowd energized. Just getting the yes going, and that just that visual can get a crowd pumped. So yeah, I think that's a huge advantage for SmackDown.
Oh yeah, when we went to the main event tonight, I was like, there's only 20 minutes left in the show. And it's amazing that when you watch Raw, it's just like, I can't believe this is 3 hours long.
Yeah, you're like, damn, there's another hour.
Yeah. So no, I mean, so that was nice. So that wraps up our coverage of the show. Do we just want to quickly talk about some of the other news today that's breaking as far as Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, so he was flagged again for another USADA violation. Same substance. That was happened on the night of the fight. So same substance, flagged twice. Looks like it's the same thing as John Jones, an estrogen blocker. And a lot of athletes use those when you're cycling off of steroids, PEDs. But we don't know yet, what he was using them for, or so when his hearing will be. So that's all in play. But John Jones, his hearing is set for, I think it's still a few months away. I believe it's October or November. So Lesnar, his hearing would probably be around that same time. So if WWE were to suspend him, it probably wouldn't be until after that hearing. So there's still a little ways to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I'm curious. I mean, do you think it's going to impact the plans for SummerSlam at all, or they're going to be?
No, I don't think so. I think, they could suspend him now. My guess is that they would rather, that they'd probably wait for the actual hearing. And if they do that, it doesn't impact, even if they suspended him now for 30 days, it doesn't impact SummerSlam much. But my guess is that they would wait until the hearing with the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Well, and now there's a precedent, right? I mean, isn't Roman Reigns' suspension the first case of sort of a quote unquote planned suspension after the offense, where they knew a suspension was coming and they had time to tie up some TV ends? In the past, hasn't it been more abrupt than that?
Yeah, but this one, they didn't really need to tie anything up. They did with Reigns losing the title, but then they went right back and put him in the main event of the next pay-per-view. So that was an odd choice. But no, there have been many times in the past where they get a drug test failure and then they hold off. I mean, they've held off for months before they've actually done the suspension. Yeah. So
I'm just thinking of some of the other stuff that's happened in recent months. I mean, like whether it was Adam Rose or Jerry Lawler had his issues. I mean, I know sometimes life stuff happens that you need to act on quickly, but with both Rose and one of the Ascension, I mean, when they had their wellness policy violations, it seemed like that was.
Yeah, it seems like they're faster on it now, and especially with the lower level guys. But they've in the past they've held on to that stuff. With Scott Hall back in the 90s, they held off for like 2 months, and you didn't even know if they were going to act on it. And then Scott Hall gave his notice that he's going to WCW, and then they suspended him for it. So they haven't been consistent all the time with it.
Yeah. That detail, surprisingly, I believe, was left out of the Monday Night Wars documentary.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool, man. So we have anything else to talk about? I think we hit just about everything.
Real quick, who do you pick leaving Battleground with the WWE Championship?
I think there's going to be some weird, janky finish where somehow, actually, knowing if Reigns was in their good graces, they'd find a way to have all three of them win, right? But no, I think there's gonna be some weird finish that's gonna end up with, like you said, with Dean and Seth, and it's poised to each have their own championship.
Yeah, I could see them doing like Roman and Ambrose both pin Rollins or the other, something along those lines where it creates some controversy and allows them to create two champions.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, though, I feel like a lot of the stuff is kind of inconsequential in this pay-per-view, right? I mean, we got the U.S. Championship, so that, in theory, Ryder could win that. In theory, Darren Young could win the IC championship. But I mean, I don't feel like there's really high stakes with a lot of the other feuds. I feel like Sasha versus Charlotte and Dana with her mystery partner. I think the mystery partner is the most exciting element. Who's your prediction for that? You still sticking with?
I'm still going to go with Bayley. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like it to be Bayley, but I think now, furthermore, Nia Jax could very well happen.
Yeah, it definitely could. I just think I feel like they need someone like a good worker on the SmackDown side. And you've got Natalya, but that's about it right now as far as really good workers. So.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be, I think, kind of nice to put a pin in some of these conflicts and have the wrestlers go their separate ways. Although there's not going to be a lot of that, though. I mean, really, aside from what's going on with The Miz and Darren Young and what's going on. I mean, it seems like there's not a lot of splits as a result of this match. I mean, Seth and Dean being the main one, but we're still going to see Becky and Natalya, same show. Sasha and Charlotte, same show.
Yeah.
So.
And now it looks like the draft is concluded. It's all done. And so there you go. The full list is at WrestlingInc.com. Mark has them split up by Raw and SmackDown with the number that they were drafted. So check that out. And yeah, I think that about does it tonight.
Awesome. So we're going to see everyone again on Sunday after Battleground.
Sunday after Battleground, Vince Russo will be joining us. He was supposed to be joining us for a special our Wednesday podcast, but we decided to do the podcast tonight because of all the steam with the draft. So Vince will be joining us on Sunday, and then we'll be back doing these podcasts with me next Wednesday.
Cool, man. So we'll see everyone Sunday night. In the meantime, to keep on top of the latest wrestling news, of course, go to WrestlingInc.com. Want to thank host Papa, DDP Yoga, and Trendy Butler for sponsoring the show. And most importantly, want to thank all of you out there for listening. If you like the show, do us a favor, subscribe on iTunes, leave us a rating. You can follow both Raj and myself on Twitter, both pretty easy to find. And again, stay tuned. We'll be back this Sunday for our coverage of Battleground. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.